point number one, fixed beginning and fixed endings with S at the end, multiple endings depending on your choices, but one fixed beginning. So basically in these video games, in most of them, or at least the ones that I really liked and played, everyone who plays the game, everyone starts at the same place. So whether your character is of a certain race or ethnicity or whatever, the starting point of the story in the game is all the same, no matter what your appearances are and X, Y, and Z. But there are like 3 or 4 endings, set in stone endings, possible endings to the game that based on your choices you will select throughout the game. So basically in most of these games, each character starts at a certain point, like I said, at the same point for every character, whoever plays the game. But throughout the game, your choices determine which ending, which outcome gets selected and gets, so to speak, manifested in the game for you. So basically each character goes through the game, and as they're going through the game, they have these choices that they can make. And different choices lead to different outcomes, and out of those 3 or 4 select endings, one of them gets selected out of those endings for your character. And so that will be the ending that you will experience. And think how the game may have 3 endings, and one of them is considered to be the best ending to the game. One of them is like the neutral or the medium ending. And then the third one is like the worst ending that could possibly happen. And I believe all of us, when we come into this life, it's kind of the same thing for us. So we have these certain endings, like where we're gonna basically start the game is already determined. And these are spiritual concepts that I have gotten from Hinduism and A Course in Miracles, and other traditions have also spoken about these kind of things. But for me, this is more of a spiritual perspective that we can draw from those games as well. So it's like once you have the spiritual perspective, you can actually see more clearly what's really happening in the game. But nonetheless, let's go back to the games and talk about how the beginning is already set in stone. And then the ending, you can also argue that is set in stone, but it's like we have choices as which of these 3 set in stone endings, so like I said, ending 1, ending 2, ending 3, which one of those gets selected, that's up to you. That's up to you how you play this game of life. You being the character of this game of life, how you play it and what choices you make ends up selecting one of those 3 destined outcomes. So for me, I feel like we all come into this game and this game of life, and it's already selected. The starting place is already selected, where you're going to be born, who your parents are going to be, what circumstances you're going to be born in, that's already selected. But which ending gets selected out of those 3 choices, that's up to you, and your choices determine that. So as you go throughout the game, the choices that you make will end up manifesting one of those 3 outcomes, either the highest outcome or the neutral or the medium outcome or the worst outcome. And I believe for all of us, those things are also set in stone. It's almost like you, as person A, you have these 3 outcomes that you can graduate from this game of life with. So it's up to you and your choices which one of those outcomes, whether the highest or the medium or the worst, happens in this life. And so it's almost like this game of life is a classroom, and depending on what choices you make, whether we choose to study or take a certain extracurricular activity, X, Y, and Z, it determines whether or not we pass the class. And by passing the class, I mean you select the highest possibility and the highest outcome for your life. So I think it's a really fun way to think about that, to think that you have a highest destiny, a highest path that you can graduate this game of life with. And it's up to you whether or not that happens. But instead of being afraid of that, you should be empowered by the fact that your choices and your decisions have so much power, and that it is up to you what destiny gets manifested for you. In a sense, we already have a destined path, but you can say that we have like our highest destined path, our neutral or medium destined path, and like the worst path. So let's say like you go through, actually, let me segue to this next point, because I believe this next point number 2, is going to tie in very well with what I'm talking about right now. And it's actually going to be able to shine a light more on these concepts that I'm talking to you about. The second point ties in very well with the first point that I mentioned, and it talks about crucial choice points. I called point number 2 crucial choice points because throughout each of our lives, we are presented, each day of our lives, we are presented with thousands of choices that we can make right now. And not all of these choices are equal in nature, but there are those crucial choice points. And each of these games, especially like there was one that I really liked. This game was probably my favorite game of all time, to be honest with you, and it was called Mass Effect. And throughout that game, you had like maybe like 8 or 9 choice points that were of a much higher importance than the other choice points. And within that game, depending on which choices you made during those crucial choice points, like I said, there may be 1,000 other choices in the game or in this game of life that we have to make. But those crucial choice points, they in that game determined the final outcome of that game. So that game, for example, Mass Effect, had maybe like 3 endings that were already set in stones. The people that had made the game, those were the 3 possible endings that could have happened. It's not like there's like an infinite number of endings that could happen and it's just like random. It's 3 set in stone endings, and it's your choices during those 8 critical choice points in the game that selected which one gets manifested. And I'll put a diagram here. This is a drawing that I made, so bear with me as I try to replicate it here. But basically, as your character, you being the character of your life or your player in the game, as you are going through the game, you will be presented with these like 8 crucial choice points. And for ourselves, we can think of those in our lives as like those big decisions that many other decisions in your life stem from and come from. So for example, where you move to, where you live, who you marry, where you go to school, what you select for a job as your like first job, and all these things, these decisions, these significant decisions, so many other thousands of decisions get brought about based on those decisions. So for example, like the decision to move to a different country, like as I have experienced as an immigrant, that one decision has led to 1,000 other decisions. So it's like the trajectory of my life has changed based on that one decision. So that's definitely a crucial choice point because of how many other important decisions it has led to. So now in each of our lives, we have these crucial choice points, and what we decide in those choice points, it like navigates our path. So you can think of this character in the game going through and then it encounters 3 choices right here. So in this choice point, let's say it makes choice A. And then from choice A, it moves forward. And then again, another crucial choice point has 3 choices, A, B, C. And then in this one, it chooses point B. And then it keeps going and it makes these different choices. And these different choices at each of these crucial choice points, it's like they add up. And then the cumulative result of each of those is the outcome that gets selected. The way I think about it sometimes is like each of these points has like a rating associated to it. So let's say in choice point number 1, there is like 20 points to point 1, point A. There is like 10 points to B, and there's 5 to C. So if you choose the highest one, the 20.1, you score. It's like your total score is going higher. So you choose that one. And then your second choice point, let's say you choose point B, and in that situation, that is the one that has the most points. So you're basically racking up these points, and then at the end of the game, the way it works is like if you have more than let's say like 70 points, then the best outcome gets selected for you. If you have more than, it's literally like passing a class or passing a grade. It's like you still pass it if you get like more than 50%, but 50 to 70%, even though you pass, it's like not the highest outcome. Under 50, it's like you fail the class. Like that would be the lowest outcome that could be selected. But like the highest would be 70% or up. And so basically you're going through life, you're making these decisions, and the cumulative result of that, the cumulative score, is what leads to which outcome gets ultimately selected for your life. Now, I know a lot of this stuff may be speculation, but from my own personal spiritual studies, whether it be through A Course in Miracles, which is my main spiritual path, and it talks about the metaphysics of life, or my studies of Hinduism and what I've learned from their ideologies and their way of thinking about it, and this idea of, incarnations and our dharma and destiny, our destined path, which path we choose, the power of and the importance of decisions over our path and over our life. All these things have brought me to realize what those games, consciously or subconsciously, were trying to show us. And one of the main things that they were trying to show us is how important our choices are, especially during those crucial choice points to select our destiny. Our choices during those choice points can be so crucial in which one of those outcomes can be selected for our lives. And like I said, it helps to imagine that we have this beginning that's already set in stone, like before we incarnate into this physicality, into this physical body. Like we already knew prior to birth where and when and who is going to be our parents, and all those things were already set in stone. But then there's these three possible outcomes or endings to this game of life, or to this incarnation that we're having in this physical reality as we're perceiving it. So our choices in those crucial choice points is like they reroute us. So it's like you go, it's kind of like the way I sometimes see it also is like a pinball machine that like it hits one thing. So like you hit choice A and then you reroute, or like your pinball like reroutes to another point, and it keeps going like that. And then it's like select certain ones, basically certain choices basically keep rerouting you towards one of those select outcomes. So you come into this life with those select outcomes and the fixed beginning, and then these crucial choice points determine which one of those gets selected. Now, don't freak out, because I know when we hear this, we may think like, oh my God, what if I get it wrong? There's always a path to redemption. First of all, like there's always, God, our creator, is so graceful that it always gives us grace to redeem ourselves. That's why a lot of, like, let's say alcoholics who hit rock bottom, that rock bottom moment, which seems like they're on a trajectory towards the very, very worst outcome that their life could possibly take. In that rock bottom moment, boom, like grace comes in, and divine intervention comes in. And this is something that a lot of people who have followed the 12-step program, report, is that in that rock bottom moment is when the grace of God, divine intervention, like comes in, and it helps that person completely change the trajectory of their life and go from a literal hell rock bottom moment to, selecting the absolute highest outcome, and basically like going to heaven, like quote unquote, like equivalent of that when it comes to the outcome, the highest outcome. So never underestimate the grace of God and the love of God to help us select and manifest our highest destiny, our highest outcome. It's just that we have to listen. And one of my future points, I'll talk about, the importance of guidance and which guidance we listen to and how to receive that guidance. So stay tuned. That's going to be, I believe, point number 4, where I talk about which guidance we end up listening to and how important that is. But basically what I wanted to say is, when you hear all this stuff and how important these choices are, especially our choices during those significant, crucial choice points, it may cause some fear in you of like, oh my God, what if I get this wrong? What if I make the wrong decisions? Well, I wanted to just encourage you to not see this as something to be afraid of, but also something that you have power over, and that it is in your power, and that your choices matter, your decisions matter over your destiny, but also feel safe to know that you have access to guidance, a deep reservoir of deep spiritual guidance that can lead you internally. your intuition, your guidance, your gut feeling, those things can lead you. The Holy Spirit can lead you, as I would like to call it. And I will talk about that in point number 4, as I mentioned earlier. But just don't be afraid. Just know that these choices do matter, but there's always a path to redemption, and there's always guidance available that is trying to help us manifest the highest outcomes. If you would like help with anything that I mentioned in this video or anything that I talk about in general on my channel, please check out the link in the description, as I have started doing one-on-one coaching with you that is personalized for you and your needs and your goals and your dreams in this life and what you want to accomplish. And I want to help you overcome whatever limiting beliefs or obstacles are in your way of accomplishing and achieving that now, whether it be spiritually, physically, mentally, or financially, or whatever other areas of your life you may be concerned with now. If you want help in any of those or with anything that I talked about in this video, please make sure you check out the link in the description and apply for one-on-one coaching with me. I'm super excited to see you within that container, as no matter how much I say in a video or how much I share, it will never be as personalized as it can be for you. And so the videos are more of a one-size-fits-all. But in that container, in that one-on-one coaching session, we can go a lot deeper, personalized for you. And that will for sure lead you to get a lot further than any of these YouTube videos can, or I can ever do in this video format. So I hope to see you guys in that. Thank you guys for checking out that short clip from one of my longer videos that is linked right here. If you want to watch that, click that. And if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos from me on your homepage in YouTube. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.